The Bronze Age world, a global system before globalization. Before its collapse, the Bronze Age world was highly advanced and deeply connected. From Mycenaean Greece to ancient Egypt, from the Hittite Empire in Anatolia to Mesopotamia, civilizations were linked through trade, diplomacy, and shared technology. This was not a primitive age, it was a complex international system. Trade and technology. Bronze, the metal that defined the era, required copper from Cyprus, tin from distant regions like Afghanistan. No single civilization controlled all resources. They depended on long-distance trade to survive. Ships crossed the Mediterranean, caravans crossed deserts. Royal courts exchanged gifts, letters, and princesses. This fragile system worked until it didn't. The great powers of the Bronze Age world. The Hittite Empire. Centered in modern-day Turkey, the Hittites were a military superpower. They mastered chariot warfare and controlled key trade routes. Mycenaean Greece. The ancestors of Homer's heroes, Agamemnon, Achilles, and Odysseus. They built massive palaces and dominated the Aegean Sea. Ancient Egypt. Under rulers like Ramesses II, Egypt was rich, organized, and powerful. Its armies and monuments symbolized stability. Mesopotamian kingdoms. Assyria and Babylon were centers of writing, law, and administration. Together, these civilizations formed the backbone of the Bronze Age world. The first cracks appear. By the late 13th century BCE, warning signs began to appear. Earthquakes destroyed cities, food shortages increased, internal rebellions weakened governments, trade routes became unstable. The system was under stress, but no one expected what came next. The Sea Peoples, the shadowy invaders. One of the greatest mysteries of the Bronze Age collapse is the arrival of the Sea Peoples. Ancient Egyptian records describe them as peoples from the sea who came with fire in their ships. They attacked Anatolia, the Levant, Cyprus, Egypt itself. Cities were destroyed, coastal regions were devastated. No one knows exactly who the Sea Peoples were. They may have been refugees fleeing famine, former mercenaries, displaced populations from collapsed regions. Whatever their origin, their impact was catastrophic. The fall of the Hittite Empire. The mighty Hittite Empire was among the first to fall. Its capital, Hattusa, was burned and abandoned. Administrative systems collapsed. The empire disappeared so completely that historians forgot it existed for thousands of years. This was not a simple military defeat, it was a systemic breakdown. Mycenaean Greece. From palaces to ashes. In Greece, magnificent Mycenaean palaces like Mycenae, Pylos, Tiryns were destroyed by fire. Writing vanished. Trade stopped. Population declined sharply. Greece entered a dark age that lasted centuries. The stories of heroes and gods survived only through oral tradition, later becoming the epics of Homer. Egypt survives, barely. Egypt faced invasion but managed to survive. Under Ramesses III, Egyptian forces defeated the Sea Peoples in a massive naval battle. But survival came at a cost. Egypt lost foreign territories, trade dominance, economic stability. Though Egypt did not collapse immediately, it never fully recovered its former power. Climate change, the silent killer. Modern scientific research reveals a crucial factor behind the collapse: climate change. Ice cores, pollen samples, and sediment layers show that the eastern Mediterranean experienced severe droughts, reduced rainfall, agricultural failure. Crop yields dropped, famine spread, governments lost legitimacy. When food disappears, civilization follows. Systems collapse when complexity becomes a weakness. The Bronze Age world was too interconnected to fail safely. Once trade routes broke, bronze production stopped, weapons and tools disappeared, armies weakened, economies collapsed. This is called systems collapse, when the failure of one part brings down the entire system. What once made the Bronze Age strong, interdependence, became its greatest weakness. Rebellion from within. As resources became scarce, internal unrest increased. Peasants rebelled, soldiers deserted, local leaders challenged kings. Many governments collapsed from inside, not invasion. Authority crumbled, law and order vanished. Cities were abandoned, not conquered. The end of writing and the Dark Age. One of the most shocking consequences of the collapse was the loss of writing. In Greece, writing disappeared for nearly 400 years. Records stopped. History went silent. This marked the beginning of the Dark Age, not because people were unintelligent, but because systems of knowledge had collapsed. A new world from the ashes. Out of the destruction, something new emerged. Iron replaced bronze. Smaller, more resilient societies formed. New cultures arose: the Phoenicians, the Israelites, later classical Greece. The collapse was not the end of civilization, but a brutal transformation. Why the Bronze Age collapse matters today. The Bronze Age collapse is not just ancient history, it is a warning. It shows that complex systems are fragile. Climate change can destabilize civilizations. Overdependence on global trade carries risks. Political instability can spread rapidly. The ancient world fell not because of one cause, but because multiple crises hit at once. Sound familiar? Conclusion. The day the world broke. The Bronze Age collapse was one of the greatest turning points in human history. In a single century, civilization lost empires, knowledge, stability. Yet, humanity survived. From the ruins of fallen cities, new societies were born. The lesson is clear. Civilizations do not collapse overnight. They collapse when they fail to adapt. And the echoes of that ancient collapse still speak to us today. Thanks for watching. Do subscribe and share, please.